Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be joining us from. Welcome to episode 125 of Industry Insights, going on 3+ years strong ever since World Backup Day 2020. My usual co host and colleague Jason Buffington's got some time off for good behavior, but we're very pleased to be welcoming a very important Veeam partner to the scene. David Cerf, welcome, head of U.S. operations for GRAU Data. We're going to break down your role and what GRAU does in a little bit, but do want to give you a chance to say hello.
How are you doing, Dave? Good to see you again.
Yeah, good to see you. Good to see you. I actually just returned home last night, so it's good to be back. Good to be back in the home office for a little bit anyway. Travel's becoming a thing, but home is still a great place to hang out.
Oh, home's always good. Well, you're gonna have to get yourself like a portable guitar, so you have a reason to hang out in the hotel and jam, not have to always be at home, right?
Yeah, there you go. There you go. So, what I want to just tee up for everyone is we've been talking a lot this year about various research activities that we've been doing. A little tease for you, we're going to release at Veeam just in a few weeks, really, in May, a brand new 2023 ransomware report of 1,200 organizations that were actually hit with ransomware. Important to point out these aren't all Veeam customers by any stretch of the imagination. It is a cross-industry survey. But David, unfortunately, ransomware is something that's almost inescapable. Just to prove the point, meaning it's not me saying it, it's not a couple of vendors saying that. I'll give a data point or two from research that we've done. If we look up at the first slide, what we've got here is, David, this is looking at 3 years of data. And this is from our data protection trends report. It's been the largest in the industry, backup and availability industry for 3 years running. We just keep increasing the number. Most recently, we had 4,200 respondents. What we're seeing here is just simply over the past 2 years, what were the most common causes of an outage that you experienced? Those are the longer bars, check all that apply. The shorter bars are looking at what was the single most impactful cause of an outage for each of the last 3 years. The interesting thing in my mind, David, is the reason backup still matters in 2023 is that all the things we're used to worrying about, we still have to worry about, meaning applications fail, server hardware goes down. So all of these things that, were events that thankfully didn't happen too often, but still do happen. That takes place. But the really unfortunate thing is cyber percolates to the top. It was the most common as well as the most impactful 3 years running. That's why we're actually still talking about cyber in this day and age. Just want to pause on that, get your reaction before we dive in a little more. Does that surprise you, or does that seem consistent with what you guys see at GRAU?
Oh, you can't open a newspaper anymore without seeing it on the headlines. It's pretty much daily. And I think what's amazing is just how clever the ransomware guys get to keep finding another way around whatever type of tools we're building, whether it's perimeter or network and security. It leaves you no option but to have valid backups that you can get back when you need them. So it doesn't surprise me at all, Dave. As a matter of fact, I think you and I have said it before. It's not the if, it's the when. And I love your numbers, which it just surprises me is the fact that people are seeing it not just one attack but multiple attacks. That's the thing that surprises me, just how frequently this still continues to happen.
Yeah, it really is a crime of opportunity, largely indiscriminate. I mean, there's certainly state-sponsored events that are targeted, but it's really the reason that we see it percolate so often up to the top like we do here in the results is that regardless of your industry or vertical, regardless of your company's size, and regardless of where you are geographically based, there are bad actors just looking to make a buck, quite literally. And so you can find yourself in harm's way no matter what kind of an industry that you're in. And you know what? I want to transition now to a little bit of the antidote, if you will. Veeam itself, we really revved the entire portfolio in the last couple of months. Starting in February 14th, came out with version 12. We extended the ways that we can offer immutability on our backups. We offer now not only AWS, but our Azure infrastructure. Our Kasten product on Kubernetes offers this. Our Microsoft 365 product offers immutability on backup copies. We even streamlined something, and I'll go ahead and just give a quick slide update on that. We've been natively offering, since version 11 now, a couple of years back, something we call the Linux Hardened Repository. We improved upon that in version 12 just about 9 weeks ago, making this process even easier. We understand that a lot of the 450 plus thousand Veeam installations are largely Windows based. So we've made that process, meaning the Linux Hardened Repository, using one-time credentials to go and create a repository that disables the change options such that someone can't go and delete the backup. And in fact, if you disable SSH, which we recommend, right after those one-time credentials are installed, even if you have root access, you're disabled from the box. But the only way you could possibly take it out is if you physically were at the keyboard of the server that's running the Linux hardened repository. So we've done a lot of things natively within Veeam, but we partner with a lot of organizations as well to offer choice. And David, that's really what I wanted to talk with you about today. Maybe give a little intro on yourself, and then we'll also tee up GRAU data in little detail as well.
Sure. Well, I've been in the storage industry for over 20 years, and everything from archiving to data protection and data security. And I've worked with GRAU in one way or another for almost 20 years as well, with Herbert Grau for many years, who was the founder. And GRAU Data is a really interesting company. Herbert Grau, the CEO and founder, was one of the original guys making tape libraries way back when it was only Storage Tech and GRAU Data. And GRAU Data then eventually got acquired by EMAS and eventually became part of Quantum. So we have a long history as a company in data protection and archiving and understanding compliance and these type of areas. And then we've been really, it's been our pleasure to be able to work with Veeam for the last several years regarding our Blocky for Veeam. And we found that one of our unique technologies that we've been delivering for compliant archives for over 15 years actually had some unique technology that could be applied to Veeam. And we have a really strong knowledge around Windows and the Windows mini filter driver technology, which allows us to really turn a Windows server into something that could be used for compliance. And so we took that technology and applied it very specifically for Veeam and created our solution, which is the Blocky for Veeam product. And this has been something that has been deployed really well across Europe. We have over 500 customers together with Veeam that use this when they can't solve their solution through the Veeam only option for Linux. They turn to GRAU, since we have the ability to apply this in a Windows only environment and protect that Windows repository from ransomware and unauthorized access to that data.
Yeah, and the reason that's such a big deal, our research shows, is that not just for Veeam, but every single backup product, the bad actors are targeting your backup. They're going to try to probably hit Active Directory at first when they launch an attack, disable communications, in other words, but then they want to go and hit your backup repository because they're in the business of trying to get paid, and they're going to try to make it difficult for you to get back up and running. So, I always like to say you should plan for breach. I mean, you should plan to be unfortunately attacked, but you still have to do your part, David, right? You still have to lock the front door. You still have to be a responsible custodian of the data. You kind of have the punchline there at the bottom there, but just describe a little bit more what what Blocky's actually doing.
Yeah, well, you hit the nail on the head. Is if you can recover easily, then there's no point in paying the ransomware, and so they're going to go after and disable everything they can to make sure that you're going to get that blue screen of death and the big ransomware. Pay this address, this many Bitcoin. That they are very clever. I mean, it's a business for these guys, and so they're looking for ways to ensure that you have no access to your data, get back in your business, and I think we've seen it is businesses, the longer they're out of commission, the more expensive this becomes, and so it's critical for these guys to be able to get back up quickly, and having a viable backup and is important. So where we fit in is when it's a Windows only customer base. And by the way, we have large customers and startups all across the board, government customers where they have regional retail distributions where there are lots of small window deployments, and the IT burden is going to kill these guys if they have to try to make it overly complex. And the Blocky solution is so simple for them to deploy. It deploys and is set up and running in roughly 30 minutes, and it's protecting the Veeam backup. And the way it works is to think of it like a application firewall. So it creates a zero trust architecture, which prevents everything from accessing the backup data except for Veeam processes. So we in essence, deny everything except for the approved, trusted Veeam process. And we can either do that manually where the IT admin goes in and sets those up, or we can do an auto discovery. So we can go through and know what you're allowed, and then you can go deselect what you don't want to be hitting the back end. And at that point, you lock it down. And so anything that makes a request to access anything on the Veeam Windows repository actually is checked by a fingerprint. So that process, when we go through and check the trusted applications, we're creating a fingerprint from the process and the server and the DLLs, and all of that is wrapped up to create that fingerprint. So everything that goes back through them to check is validated before it's allowed to have a write or delete permission. And so even if you had a ransomware, some malware within the system, and it's sitting there because they're like little time bombs, right? These guys get in and then they sit dormant and make sure that they're ready to hit you when you're least prepared. We can even stop an infected environment from being able to get back in and destroying or damaging the backup apps because of the way the fingerprint works. So applications that don't have a fingerprint are denied access, and only Veeam processes that are approved can then go in and then alter, change, or delete. So it's a really flexible setup for the IT admin. He can control what he's doing with it, and more importantly, is it can ensure that that regardless of malware or even an unintentional change, someone came in and tried to delete a file by mistake, we're gonna protect that backup and ensure that it's accessible and available when the users need it.
I like the number of things that you said there, including, how rapidly it can be deployed, roughly half hour. And you can layer that on top of an existing repository. We're not talking about having to create a new repository, re-ingest data. You can actually stand up Blocky and use it to protect existing backups that you may have taken months ago.
That's really the best part for the IT admins. These guys love how easy it is to deploy, and the fact that it's non-disruptive to their existing Veeam backup operation. Also, there's no more additional hardware required. So this runs on the existing Windows server, and it turns that server into the hardened repository. So really straightforward for these guys to, and it's not disruptive. We're not encrypting. So we leave all the heavy lifting to Veeam to do the encryption and the general management around the backup. We're just this add-on, as you referenced, to any Veeam deployment that's running Windows.
Yeah, and not that someone should, but if for whatever reason they wanted to remove Blocky, that's certainly possible too without altering data. So it is transparently able to be deployed on top of your existing infrastructure, on top of backups that you've already taken. It's not a one-way ticket, in other words, either. So, everyone always fears a lock-in or fears an event that might trigger mass data movement, and neither of those things are involved or concerns as it relates to Blocky on Windows environments with Veeam. And I like the notion here where it literally is a set it and forget it, meaning, talk about the administrative experience. Once they stand this up, there's no change that is really perceptible from a Veeam administrator, is there?
No, there's not. Once from the user's perspective, it's business as usual. And it's really a lightweight too, Dave. So we're not creating performance impact. So on reads, there's no impact. On a write, delete, it's about a 2%. And from that perspective, users, it's negligible. What's also really nice is that we can support a single Blocky deployment can actually help manage a broader deployment. So if you had a lot of backup servers, it's really simple from a central management perspective. And all of it is super lightweight. I think the one problem we have with this product is it's so easy and it's so specific. There's not a lot to say, right? It's installed and deployed, 30 minutes. There are not a lot of products that can do that. And, they're normally pretty complex and heavy lifting, but we found it's really simple and, customers love it. You can do a download off the website and they're up and running, in less than the hour. Everything's protected. So that's kind of a cool product.
Yeah, so I was going to jump on that next. So if someone wants to experience Blocky, how can they engage?
Well, they can go to Blocky for Veeam website, and it's right online. They can do a download, and we provide them a 60-day free trial, and no credit cards, none of the other stuff. And we try to remove friction and make it easy to work with us and Veeam. So the installation downloads right there, and they can walk through it. And as I said, it's very automated from the config, so the user doesn't have to really try to figure out what do I want to allow. The Blocky is going to show them exactly what applications are accessing the backup, so they can select through and create that whitelist. Once the whitelist is done, they're in business. It's locked and loaded and protecting that Veeam repository.
Outstanding. David, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us on this. I want to point out that we are collectively, both GRAU and of course Veeam, will be at VeeamON, and it's actually coming up sooner than you might imagine. It's end of May, but it's amazing to me that we're getting really close to May even as we speak. So we're roughly about a month out from reconvening in Miami. VeeamON 2023, it will be a hybrid event again. We had some 14 to 15,000 people tune in remotely last year, 2022, in Las Vegas. Want to remind people too, we've got a code that we can get a discount on. It's at the bottom of the screen here. It's VO Miami 1001, just VO for VeeamON Miami, our location, and then 1001 for 10% discount to join us live. We're going to be back at the Fontainebleau. It's really beautiful. It's on the ocean. And I think we may get some snow here over the weekend in Colorado, David. So the idea of a little ocean breeze doesn't sound too bad right at the moment.
Now, I want to know, are the expo booths going to be on the beach? Should we bring slip, like our sandals and bathing suit? Or?
Yeah, we actually did a live concert last time we were there 3 years ago or so. And it was just sprinkling a little bit during the show, but it felt great. And so we'll do something outdoors, but the event will be mostly inside. Want to point out again that GRAU's going to be there. If you're attending us live, be sure to go check them out. And if you're able to, love to see you there. Want to give people a little taste of what we did last year live and just roll into that. But before I do, thanks again to David for joining us, and want to give a shout out for the following week. Jason will be back. Jason Buffington and Jeff Reichart will be doing episode 13, believe it or not, on our data protection trends report. They're going to break down data protection trends around public sector environments. So that's coming up 1 week from airtime, on Tuesday after this. Be sure to check that out. Be sure to check out Veeam On. Stay safe, stay positive, and we'll see you on the next stream.